Hello again everyone, and welcome back to another lore-filled episode brought to you by the Halo Collective. My name is Ricky and thanks again for joining us. This time around we will be going over two separate topics, the first being a new graphic novel by the name of Halo, Tales from Slipspace, and after we go over that briefly, we have all new ships being included into the Halo Fleet Battles tabletop game. As with all ships in Halo Fleet Battles, they have their own abundance of canon to be shared as well. Now let's stop wasting time on telling you what I'll be talking about instead of just talking about it. As previously mentioned, Halo, Tales from Slipspace is a brand new graphic novel being brought to you by Dark Horse Comics. Anyone who may not be aware, Dark Horse Comics have brought us several different graphic novels in the past, all relating to Halo. The most recent being the Halo Escalation series. Currently we do not have much information as in the contents of Tales from Slipspace. However, as of right now, we know we'll be releasing on October 12th, 2016. If any more information aside from that is released in the future, be sure to find us as we will be surely talking about it. Next up, we have new releases from Spartan Games, the creators of Halo Fleet Battles. An all-new lineup of ships are now being included for the tabletop game, the first being the Valiant class Super Heavy Cruiser. First drafted as a compromise between a battleship and a heavy cruiser, the Valiant class suffered through years of feasibility studies and redesigns before the first hull was released from the Martian shipyard docking clamps in 2493. Valiant showed promise during initial testing and evaluation, but cost overruns and delays incorporating next-generation fusion drives seemingly doomed the class. Less than 2 years after entering service, the Valiant was stricken from the UNSC Navy rolls and partially scrapped. The ship would have been more of a footnote in Navy history were it not for the expansion of Navy prestige and responsibilities following revelations of Colonial Military Authority, CMA, infiltration by insurrectionist sympathizers in 2497. Almost overnight, the Navy was faced with the lack of command and control vessels, which ships traditionally assigned to such tasks quickly tied up in lengthy counterinsurgency operations. The Valiant class had the tonnage and firepower to augment battle groups composed of smaller vessels and patrol, as well as the space to install flag bridge facilities demanded by admirals leading the expeditionary operations. The Valiant and a handful of other super heavy cruiser space frames were converted into command ships. The most famous of these refurbished vessels was the Everest, fated to be the flagship of the legendary Vice Admiral Preston Cole. However, resource and crew shortages during Operation Trebuchet and continuing in the Covenant War curtailed plans to give all Valiant class warships a complete suite of command upgrades. Following that, we have a Covenant ship, this one first being seen in Halo Wars, the CPV Heavy Destroyer. Relentless engines of destruction, the CPV remains one of the most feared warship silhouettes across human space. However, its role within the Covenant military was that of a ship for flagellants, crewed by those deemed unstable and or unsuitable for service in the regular ministry fleets, led by those whose actions did not rise to heresy, but who carried a stench of disloyalty or disobedience. It was CPV crews who were called upon to destroy the dangerous and rather distasteful orbital bombardments of worlds early in the campaign against humanity, hovering over cities, factories, and farms in order to burn them clean of apostasy in the face of withering fire from the surface installations and remaining UNSC defenders in higher orbit. Hundreds of shattered CPV hulls remain on these charred worlds, monuments to crews who found honor in only compliance with suicidal orders, their family names once more added to the rolls of those worthy to continue the march to glorious salvation. As the war progressed, the crews of the CPVs found a newfound purpose as executioners and heralds, wielding excavation beams with deft hands and claws to carve meaningful sigils into cleansed worlds, and leading battle groups against the remnant UNSC forces judged unworthy of meeting the fleet's supreme commander. Veteran crews also found a new currency of honor in using their well-practiced skills to assist the artifact hunting fleets that scoured former human worlds for Forerunner relics and war trophies, with many turning quasi-mercenary and offering their services to ministry leaders eager to one-up each other with treasures and baubles recovered from the glassed ruins. Next up is the Punic class supercarrier. The Punic and his sister ships were the first of a new breed of warships drafted to fight a new style of colonial war in the waning years of the 25th century. Officially designated space control vehicles, these massive carriers could transport and sustain entire colonial military authority (CMA) expeditionary and interdiction campaigns in the remote outer colonies for months at a time, crushing dissent and terrorism before it could fester and spread. At least that was the intent before the Covenant fleets threatened humanity with extinction. Punic-class supercarriers have served the UNSC well in numerous campaigns and holding actions during the Covenant War, including the heroic Last Stand above Estuary and as bases operations for decisive counterinsurgency and evacuation operations on Charybdis 9. Unfortunately, the destruction of each supercarrier also means an irreplaceable loss of the elite crews and material that slowly erodes the UNSC's Navy's overall effectiveness. By 2552, only a handful of Punics remain spaceworthy, including the Trafalgar, pride of Reach's defense fleet. Then finally, the CAS class assault carrier. Assault carriers are monumental symbols of Covenant power, and among the deadliest implements wielded by the prophets in their war against humanity. Each assault carrier is a potent instrument of conversion and compliance, capable of deploying thousands of troops and numerous fighter craft, backed by an array of devastating energy projectors that can burn entire continents to ash. A single CAS is sufficiently enough to quell all but the most pernicious heresy, rebellion, or parasite outbreak. Colossally expensive to construct and few in number, the rare loss of an assault carrier is mourned by the entire Covenant. Every major Covenant fleet has at least one assault carrier at its heart, if only because carriers themselves require a significant number of support vessels when operating from high charity or major outposts. Multiple carriers in a single fleet is unusual but not unheard of. For example, the crusading fleet of Sacred Consecration, commanded by the Prophet of Regret himself, is led by twin assault carriers, the Solemn Penance and Day of Jubilation. Together, these massive warships have scoured dozens of human worlds and brought righteous destruction to those within the Covenant who dare stand in the way of the Prophet's holy mission. Now with the news out of the way, I have a question for everyone. Have you been playing Halo Fleet Battles? Are you possibly just collecting the ships? If you haven't already, why aren't you? Be sure to answer in the comments below because I would love to see your answers. Thanks again for joining us, everyone. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on news and entertainment for anything and everything Halo.